everybody, it's Emily with Hearty Soul again. Welcome back to the making of a Waldorf doll. If everybody did their homework right, you now have cheeks on your doll, you have lips, you have nose, your head is felted. If you're doing your doll like mine, your neck is felted, and everything is ready to have the doll skin go on top of it. The next step we need to do is cut out the doll skin. I like to use a knit. There's also actual doll skin fabric. It's a little bit more expensive, but it lasts a lot longer than the knit that I have. This is just knit that I've gotten from Joann Fabric, and it's just skin tone colored. It's stretchy, and that's the idea that we want here, is that it's stretchy to go over these chubby cheeks. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you with a doll that is already made, but pretend that this doll still has its felted pieces exposed. This is our dear Nugget, and he is going to be my little demonstrator today. Okay, so when we are making the face skin for your doll, we're going to trace the head, then we're going to stitch it, and then we're going to cut it. Okay, so what we're going to do is simply leave his nose at a 45-degree angle to the fold of this fabric. Then I'm going to take my water dissolvable pen and start at the nape of his neck, going up to about here, so U-shaped design, and then from here we're going to draw a straight line up. Okay, so this is going to be the top of the head, this is going to be in front of the face, and then once I remove him, if you just have your head, you would be able to easily see this, how we would then follow that bag down around his head here, and then bring it in for the neck to fit down here. Okay? Once we get this step done, then I want you to stitch. So I want you to take this right over to your machine and stitch on this line. Okay? Once that's triple stitched, then go ahead and cut it out right outside the line. Okay? Then we will be placing this on the head. Now, something that I use a lot in doll making is something like this. And there are shorter ones and there's longer ones, and this just clamps shut. And I use it for doll making. So I'm gonna stick my tool in through the neck of this fabric. I'm gonna open up my tool, and I'm going to make sure I know which direction I'm going here. Have the seam to the back. So the seam is here, this is the fold. And then I'm going to grab my neck like this, and I'm gonna clamp it shut. I'm just gonna pull this neck through so I can have something to hang on to while I put this face skin on. And then you just pull and adjust. And this is gonna be tight, but that's what we want. So we've got this on, and you can see that now she's at a profile. Here's the front, and we have this extra up here. So what we're going to do is take this in little by little, and I'll show you how I do this so that we get no wrinkles. And we're just going to use a hand stitch and stitch this all together at the top of the head. We're going to tie off the neck and make a nice tight neck. We're going to put in string inside the lips so that we can either make a straight set of lips, or you can even do a smile at this point. This is also the step that you could use a little beeswax and color in either the cheeks and the lips and maybe even a little bit on the nose. Of course, when you're doing this, you always color the beeswax onto a piece of fabric and then apply it to your doll. For this doll, I'm going to not do coloring. I'm just going to leave her more plain. Okay, so first we need to tie off the neck. So I've got some dental floss, and dental floss is really nice for making dolls because the waxy texture keeps it from slipping back out of the knot. So what I'm gonna do here is take this and make sure I have no wrinkles. I'm gonna go around a couple of times. Okay. Might even go around again and just tie the excess in the back here. Knots. Clip that off. Okay, so our neck is nice and smooth, and now we're ready to put in a little line for our lips. So you might be wondering, why have we not attached this yet? And that's because we need as much fabric to pull in to these lips and under the nose as possible to keep all of that defined before we then stretch all of this back. So we want to get these features all defined first with string, and then we'll pull all of this back. So let's start on the mouth. One of the tools that I find very helpful in making dolls are these really long needles. Super helpful. I think I got a little pack of like 3 or 4 needles in a package, and they're really nice because they can go all the way through a head, especially when I'm making a smile. Now, when you're making the lips, you have a few options. You can either do a pink or you can do more neutral. It's totally up to you. For this doll, I think I'm going to do just this kind of light peachy skin tone color. And I'm going to use a couple of threads. So this is pretty thick and that won't go through my needle very well. So I'm just gonna pull off a couple of threads, and I wanna make them pretty long. Okay, and then I'm gonna make sure I can pull off a couple of threads on that. Thread my needle. And I'm not gonna knot. You know, a lot of you hand sewers are like, oh, let's knot this, but we're not knotting this in this case. So what we wanna do, what helps me to do the smile, is to look at my doll again from all different perspectives, up, down, sideways, and then place pins where I want this string to go in. And this way I can kind of adjust that as I go, and I can look at her from the bottom, the top, and the side, and make sure that that's exactly where I want those to go. And so then what I'm gonna do is take my long needle, and I'm gonna go into the first pin area here, and I'm just gonna angle it all the way back, and it's gonna go all the way back to the back of the head. Okay, then you pull that through. And what you're gonna do is just pull one end through and hang on to the other end. You're gonna bring one end through to the end and then release it from the needle and let it hang there, okay? Pull it a little bit. And then on the other side, we're going to restring this needle. And we're going to go in on the other side of that pin. Kind of want to make sure you have the same angle as the other side. Remember, this is all about being symmetrical. I'm going to reposition this a little bit so it kind of meets up with the back string. If you did a really good job at packing your wool in this head, we're going to need a little bit of a thimble or something to push that needle through, because it will be very, very well done. Okay, so then you're going to just pull your string through, and again, just releasing it from the needle. And so what you have then left in the back of this head here are 2 strings. Okay, not a really big deal about where they come out. They don't have to be symmetrical back here because our hair will be covering all of this. So now, if we look in the front, I'm just going to take my pins out. We look in the front and we can pull this string as much as you want to get the smile that you're looking for. Okay, and I think I like that. And I'm just going to tie it in the back of the head now. All right, so then we have the start of our little face. So we have got our smile already. Next, what we're gonna do, some people will put a little bit of fabric glue underneath the nose here on the inside. So they will reach down and underneath here, they'll put a little glue so that the fabric will stay right up next to it. I'm not gonna do that in this case. I'm just gonna leave that like that. And I'm going to then start smoothing the head down so that we can sew the head closed on the top, okay? So the first thing you need to do is to just smoothen back the forehead first using some pins to keep this all in place. You just go around and smoothen as you go. Keep in mind that, again, all of these wrinkles will be underneath a wig. So you just keep going until your forehead is nice and smooth. Okay, so you can kind of imagine that the hair line will be about right here. Okay, so as long as all of those wrinkles are underneath that hair, all is well. Okay, and we're gonna just take a needle with thread, doesn't really matter what color it is, and then just sew that whole part back. Okay. So we're gonna embroider eyes. And I have colors. Today I'm going to be using kind of a blue-green combination for the eyes, but you can use whatever color you like. I'm going to show you how I do my eyes, and you can make them big, you can make them small, you can make them wide apart, you can make them close together. You can decide. Again, I like to place pins. It usually takes me just a little bit longer to place my eye pins than my mouth pins, just because I really want them symmetrical. And you can kind of look again at all different angles. This one needs to go up a little. And you can just sort of sit with them for a little while and see if that's where you want your eyes to go before you start placing them. We're gonna embroider eyes, and I encourage you to sort of draw out your design and decide what you want before you even touch your doll's face. In my case, I used a water dissolvable pen or a marker so that I can change this if I want. I use pins to start with, and once I drew on my eyes, I'm going to take those pins out, and then I will have a design to follow as I embroider. So we're gonna get to threading our doll needle, and I'll show you how I embroider these eyes. All right, so I've got my embroidery floss here, and I'm going to just divide this section in half, so there'll be 3 strands and 3 strands for each eye. So we're going to take our long needle, the same needle we used for the mouth, and thread that. Again, no tying, just hang it on your needle like this, and we're going to start going in at the bottom of the eye. Okay, and just go all the way back, just like we did before. Might want to grab a thimble or something, and you can see it coming right to the back. We're going to grab that out, pull our end through, and let that come out. Okay, we're going to let that tail hang out, about like that, just so we have enough to tie in the back. And then we can put this long needle away and grab a smaller needle. And then we're gonna thread this smaller needle onto our 3 strands. Okay. So when we're embroidering an eye, in our knit fabric, you can kind of see there's these lines here. So I use these lines as my guide, so I can go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Then at the end, I'm going to make a stitch that goes out here, kind of just this line here. Some people might want to do tiny little stitches around this circle at the end, and that's okay too. That will define that circle a little bit more. I kind of like to see how I do at the end and then decide if I need to do those tiny little stitches around the circle. Okay, I'm gonna let you try to watch this. It might be easier just to go ahead and try it. Remember, this is something that if you make a mistake, you can always pull it out and start again. I'm gonna pull my pins out. I like to try to grab a little bit of the wool underneath if I can, because that kind of makes the eye have some shape. This is probably the most intricate part of this whole process, is embroidering this eye. If you've never embroidered anything before, you might want to practice this on just a piece of fabric first. Take your time and go slow and use the kind of channels on your knit fabric as your guide. Just want to make sure that all your stitches are touching each other, otherwise you have to go back and fill in the gaps. So mine got to be a little bit more taller than circular. And I kind of want it to be a little bit more circular. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do those tiny little stitches all along this to make sure that I have a nice round eye. Remember, whatever you do with this eye is what you're gonna have to do with the other eye. So just keep in mind about that as you're going around here. All right, that's much better, much more round for me, and I like it this way. So then at the end, I'm gonna do this little slant on the end. I'm gonna do 2 stitches here, switch over to my long doll needle and attach that back to the back of the head and tie it off back here with the one that was waiting. Okay, pretty happy with how that turned out. So then what we're gonna do is end over here, take this needle off and then put my doll needle in, attach that, and then move it back to the back of the head. So there's our first eye. Going to then just tie these off. I'm not gonna pull too much because I don't want that there. And then you just do the same to the other eye. We'll see you back for the next lesson. As always, if you've got questions about making your Waldorf doll, feel free to leave those questions right below here in the comment section, and I will get to them just as soon as I can. Join me next week for the tutorial on how to create a wig for your Waldorf doll. Thanks for joining me and have a great week.